Hey everyone. So today we are going to talk about PageSpeed Insights. What is it? Why does it matter? And what can you do to help you? What can you do about PageSpeed Insights to help you rank higher on search engines? Right. So let's start with what is PageSpeed Insight. But before I tell you about what is PageSpeed Insights, let's take a scenario. All right. Let's assume that you are trying to change your tires and you don't know how to do that, and you search on Google, and you put on Google search how to change your tires, right? You get a bunch of results. You click on the first one, and it takes, say, 10 seconds to load, right? It doesn't load fast. It's still loading for a long time, and you're like frustrated, right? What would you do? You'll go back, right? And then you'll click on the second result in the list, and you click on the second result, and this time when it opens, the text is too small and too cramped for you to read. You can't read on your mobile, right? I'm sure you may have seen such kind of websites, but you rarely ever see them on Google search, like the first page of Google search. And the reason you don't see it is because if you have such an experience, who would you blame? First, you would blame Google, saying that what stupid results is Google giving, right? And second, you'll blame the website itself. So if you can remember the name of the website, you'll say that, hey, don't go there. It's a waste website. You can't read, you can't use it properly, you can't navigate, and all of that. So it means that the kind of websites that are listed on the first page of Google search affects the perception that users have about Google, right? So Google wants good websites to be shown on the page one of its search results, right? Okay. Given this, Google has created certain parameters. So you have to define that, right? You have to define what is a good website. So basically, it has to load fast, correct? It has to be easily navigatable, if that's the right word to use. Like, you should be able to navigate to different sections of the website. You should be able to read what is on the website very clearly. The contrast has to be there. Like, black on white background is good, but light pink on dark pink is not good. If it is very bright pink, it's hard for you to read, those kind of things. You should not have too many buttons close to each other, because then you can't click properly, right? Yeah, you might have seen some websites where you accidentally click some other button instead of something else, because the screen was small and it was hard to click, right? Those things do not give a good user experience. So what Google did was that it created a list of things that typically would decide whether a website is good or not, right? Now, once that was done, it it tried to measure every website on those parameters, right? These parameters, I'm kind of simplifying it, but these parameters are together called core web vitals, which means that if you're good at core web vitals, it means that you have a good website, at least user-friendly website, right? So so far, what we have talked about is Google has a method to measure if a website is great for usability or not. And these parameters are together kind of called core web vitals. And Google made a tool for it, because just having Google know how the website is not enough, right? We as website owners should also know what to do. First of all, we need to know whether we have a good score or not. Second, we need to know what to do to improve the score, right? That's the only way we can improve. So Google knows that. So Google created a tool called PageSpeed Insights, right? So PageSpeed Insights, if anybody ever tells you, it's basically a free tool provided by Google, which gives you a score on how usable your website is, right? Now let's look at this tool, and I'll tell you how easy it is to know what is wrong and what is not wrong, how much do you score in it, and what to do about it, right? It's not going to be too technical, so don't worry. I'll keep it as jargon-less as possible, right? Okay. Now, Google Chrome, share. Okay, I hope you can see my website, see my screen. So I'll put this link on the YouTube description so that you can access the document for PageSpeed Insights in case you need it. You don't. I'm going to open up one of my my agency's website. Right. I ran this core. So the tool that the name of the tool is PageSpeed Insights. Right. When you open it, this is what you see. You'll see a blank, kind of a box where you can put in the URL. So you just put in your URL here, right? And then you click on analyze. Once you put it, you will see a result. And this is typically what you would see. Okay. Sometimes you will see a section here as well, right? But right now, Google has not captured it for my agency, so you don't see it. But you can see the rest of the things. You see this diagnose performance issues tab. Now, you'll see that there are 4 scores mentioned here: performance, accessibility. I'll try to zoom in. Performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO, right? Now, each of these scores is out of 100. Okay. And the higher, the better. Now, let's talk about each of them first, and then I'll get into the details, right? So performance is basically how fast it loads. Like, what is the performance of your website? How quickly can a user start interacting with the website, right? Accessibility is how easy it is to access different parts of the website. So how easy it is to navigate, basically. Best practices is, have you followed best practices of web development? So there are certain practices like, you should have a certain type of structure, frameworks in web development. It's a slightly technical stuff, but you just need to know that, okay, are the best practices followed or not? So in my case, I've scored a 95 out of 100. In accessibility, I've scored a 92, which means it is easy to navigate. In performance, I've scored a 75 out of 100. Now, that's less than the first grade. That's why you see a yellow or an orangish mark. And the last is SEO. Like, have you done basic SEO on the website or not? Now, all these scores are, as I said, out of 100, but there is more to it. Like, it's not just randomly, giving you a score and not telling you anything how this was calculated. Google actually tells you everything related to it. So let's go through it. Okay. Now you see this is the first section, performance, and you'll see that there are like a bunch of parameters that my website was measured on. So it says that first contentful pane, largest contentful pane, total blocking time, CLS, cumulative layout shift, speed index, and all of that. Now, you don't need to know, as a website owner or a marketing head, you don't need to know what these means, but it's basically how quickly the page loads. So if you see here, you see it has actually taken screenshots of how fast the page is loading, right? It started off blank, then it loaded, and it finally loaded entire thing, right? These are like a few milliseconds from each other. And you see here, like, there are like 2 sections, mobile and desktop, which means it is giving you these scores for 2 different screen types or devices, right? How much do you score on a mobile, and how much do you score on a desktop version? So in my case, my agency website, it is scoring great on desktops, right? It's scoring a 99 out of 100 in performance, accessibility 91, best practices and SEO 100 each, right? So desktop version is pretty good, but the mobile version has some issues with the performance, right? This is how my website is. So you can also try it. This is free, as I said. So you just go to PageSpeed. I'll put this in the description as well. pagespeed.web.dev, and you just put in your website name and you're done. All right. Now, you don't just get this, because even for a technical guy, they have to understand what this means, right? How was this measured, right? These are like subcategories of the performance category, right? So it actually tells you what took the most time. It says that there were some CSS and JavaScript. There were some, you can actually click here and learn more about it. So mine is on WordPress. So you'll see that, okay, I use something called as a SiteGround Optimizer plugin. It is having a transfer size of 129.2. Maybe you can lazy load it, as in you can load it later and first let people interact with it and all of that. It is giving you suggestions, basically. You don't need to know a lot about it. Like, But if you share this with your technical team, they will understand this, right? They can do this. I actually improved these scores in the last 2 days from very low scores of like somewhere in the 20s and 30s to whatever you see here right now, right? All of these scores. It's not super hard, especially if you're using a CMS like WordPress and all of that. Shopify, it's slightly harder, but WordPress is quite straightforward. There are a lot of plugins that help you with that. So you could, if you're slightly technical, you could actually you do it yourself. Then it also tells you what all diagnostics it ran and how long it took. So in my case, largest contentful page took 4.2 seconds, right? 4,280 milliseconds. And then it goes into accessibility. It gives you, oh, there is less of contrast. See, I told you about that contrast, like light pink on dark pink. So here in this case, this is like kind of purplish color. So it feels that the difference is not enough for people to recognize it, especially if they are visually impaired or not, or something like that, right? So that's why I got a score of 92, right? Especially on mobiles. So in desktop, if you see, my accessibility was also okay, it's still 91. So it's the same error, like no, not error, but as in opportunities to improve, right? Okay, now that's that. And then, so that's the accessibility section. So it's about how easy it is to navigate. The third one is best practices. So it says that, okay, some of the images do not have correct aspect ratios. So it seems that my logo here is of a different aspect ratio while the actual is different. So it is being displayed in a different aspect ratio. It is asking me to fix it. So if I fix this, maybe my best practices score will boom to 100, right? So I could do that. And then lastly, SEO. It checks about all of this. It passed number of audits, so it will check off all these audits, and everything is done. Of course, I'm an SEO, so I'll be fixing all this anyways. So that's what PageSpeed Insight does, right? So we understood what it is. We first understood why it is required. Second, we understood what is PageSpeed Insights and how do you measure, like what is the score that you get. Now, I want to put this in context, okay? You might think that, oh, 75 is a bad score. It's not a good score. It's actually not that bad. And I'll tell you why. Let's look at the PageSpeed Insights of Google itself. Okay, it's hard to use. Okay. So let's look at the PageSpeed Insight of, I think I've opened it in this tab. This is google.com. Okay. We are measuring the PageSpeed Insights of google.com itself. So you see the Google search page, we are measuring the PageSpeed Insights of that. And it tells you something extra like this core web vitals assessment. We'll get into that later. But it's the same thing, like largest contentful paint, first FCP, first contentful paint, and all of that. It has some more details about what it is and all of that. But either ways, we'll stick to this part because this is common across whether your page has a lot of traffic or not, right? It really depends on how much traffic your page gets. So there are a lot of other factors that decide because this is real-time data. This is measured data. So you see here, google.com itself has a 68 in performance. Accessibility is just 77. Best practices, all of it, and SEO of 85, right? So you would think that, hey, Google at least should be doing that, right? So what does it tell us? And I actually want to show you a few more. So this is Google, right? Desktop, again, Google has a in 80s. Mobile, it has 60s, 70s, and 80s. Let's look at apple.com, right? How is Apple doing? Oh, it has a 34 score in mobile version, right? Everything else is like higher 90s. Desktop, 85, right? So surprising, right? Amazon.com, 38, 92, 82, 93. So you see, in many cases, in mobile versions, the performance is really bad, right? Here, this is Amazon, okay? This is Amazon.com, right? And you see the desktop version, again, 50s, 82, 75, only one in 90s. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you have a low score, it does affect your ranking. But for these companies, like these are so big and so like their brands are so popular, that they will anyway get traffic. If Google doesn't show them on page one, it affects the impression of Google itself. Like, let's say you want to buy an iPhone, right? You have to show an Apple website and an Amazon website, most likely, right? So you can't afford to not show it. So that's one part. The other aspect is, this is not the only factor for ranking high, but so it means that if you have good scores, you have a higher chance of ranking high. But if you have low scores, you also lower the chances of ranking high. Having said that, these are not the only factors, which means if you have great content, excellent content, let's say, which is of high value to the users, which all of these websites that we assessed has, right? Then it can have a much higher weightage than the scores that you get in these performance tests, right? So performance tests do help, but you have to put it in context. It's not like that's the only criteria to rank high, right? But having a good performance score ensures that your value, your content gets the maximum value, right? You get the maximum out of your content that you are publishing. So it's worthwhile to get good scores. Now, the next question obviously will come is that, what's a good score, right? What is the number that will be good? What should we target? And these are this is into the area of opinions. Like, it's not, Google doesn't tell you. Google will obviously say that you score as high as possible. In my view, in mobile versions of your website, get 90 plus in each of these: accessibility, best practices, and SEO, right? Close to 100, anywhere between 90 and 100. It's easy to achieve. Your website developer can do it very easily. In performance, try to achieve 70 plus in mobile versions and 80 plus in the desktop versions. Desktop versions performance and mobile version performance. So try to score a 70 plus in mobile for performance and 80 plus for desktop. You can go beyond it, but oftentimes I've seen that the effort that you have to do to make it score high on performance above 80 is a lot, and the benefits is not as much as the efforts that you put in oftentimes. Having said that, if you like it, then you should just keep doing it. But try to score at least above 17, all of them. And the last three, accessibility, best practice, and SEO, try to score a 90 plus. It's not too difficult to get a 90 plus in the last three, right? The first one is a little hard. Mobile versions are typically lower. Shopify websites are tougher to optimize like this, because there are a lot of CSS that are loaded in Shopify while it is accessed. So it's not that easy to score very high in Shopify. So Shopify scores could be maybe a 10 points lower from the one targets that I mentioned. That is possible, but give it a try, right? It depends on how minimalistic your site is. So for example, my blog, shamgovind.com, scores on a mobile a 92, right? It scores a 92 on mobile, 100 on accessibility, 100 in best practices, 100 in SEO. Desktop also 100, 100, 100, and then a 94 in performance for desktop versions, right? This is not typical. Like, these are very high scores, and it has happened because I have removed all kinds of effects on my website. I don't have any motion effects or animations or whoosh and this and that and all of that on my website. It's a very plain Jane website, and that serves my purpose. I don't need to have a fancy website. I just need basic stuff. So I can afford to do this. But not everyone, like a Shopify website, can't do this, right? A lot of times they need a lot of images. They need like maybe some kind of CSS animations and all of those things. So it may not be feasible for them. So it depends. That's why I said that your scores Your target score should be like 17 mobile. I'm talking about performance. 17 performance for mobile versions and 18 performance for desktop versions. Shopify websites maybe get your targets 10 points lower than these. So 60 on mobiles and a 70 on desktops. There are fairly good numbers, right? So we talked about, okay, let's summarize. Okay, we talked about why PageSpeed Insights is necessary. What is it? What are the scores in it and all of that? How do you measure the scores that you get? How to use the tool, basically. And then finally, we talked about what should be our target, right? And I'll talk a little bit about how to fix it. Most of it has to be done with your web developer. You can't do it on your own unless you yourself are technically sound. Even then, you can do it if you have a WordPress or some site like that. WordPress is very customizable. There are like a lot of these optimization plugins that you can use and make your scores high. But other than that, it will be hard. So involve your WordPress developer. Most people will be able to fix it. SEO stuff, the last category, any SEO would be able to do it for you. It's not super hard. I scored 100 in a few hours, so I'm sure anybody can do it. So yeah, so that is PageSpeed Insights for you. As a business owner, as a marketing head, this is a quick test of how technically sound and how usable your website is, right? Think of it as usability score for your website. That's it. I hope it helps. We'll talk again later in the next video. Bye.